Mr. Raymond Poiser, Spatial Plan Coordinator of the National Spatial Data Management Branch, who is a Master of Ceremonies. Professor Ian Boxill, Principal of the University of the West Indies, Mona. Mr. Glenn Ivey, GIS Supervisor, Network Operations, Digital Jamaica, who is our guest speaker. Other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a pleasure for me this morning to address you as Chair of the Land Information Council of Jamaica. I'm indeed happy to be joined by fellow distinguished guests such as the Honorable Minister Pernell Charles Jr., Professor Ian Boxill, and our guest speaker, Mr. Glenn Ivey. We are happy you have all joined us in celebrating Jamaica's 14th anniversary of joining the international community in celebrating Geography Awareness Week and our 18th anniversary of celebrating GIS Day. We extend special gratitude to the University of the West Indies, Mona, for recognizing the importance of both international events, as well as their relevance to Jamaica, and for serving as a long-standing local home of GIS Day in Jamaica. The annual staging of GIS Day is a massive undertaking that has only been facilitated by UWI's continued support as partner and sponsor. Professor Boxill, please accept our immense gratitude. This year, notwithstanding the extenuating circumstances presented by the COVID-19 pandemic, the Council thought it possible to continue the long-standing tradition of our local celebrations, but innovatively, with the support of the Council's Geography Awareness Week Planning Committee and the National Spatial Data Management Branch, who have successfully staged the second Jamaica GIS User Conference virtually in September and the GIS Technical Seminar Geography Awareness Week Thanksgiving Service, and now the National GIS Day Exposition during this month. I extend a special welcome to our guest speaker, Mr. Glenn Ivey, our GeoTalk speakers, competition leads and judges, as we embark on achieving a full and exciting day focused on geospatial technologies shaping our future. We are honored that you consented to give of your invaluable time, knowledge, and expertise to this national exposition for the benefit of all in attendance. To all virtual attendees here with us today, from secondary and tertiary schools throughout the island, GIS and other professionals, as well as the general public, we hope that you will not only participate and learn from the presentations and activities, but that you will feel truly enriched by your experience at the end of the day. Although we will not be able to have the usual display of various booths and physical activities, we have no doubt that you will be fully engaged. To our students, we hope that today will bring substantial exposure to various forms of geospatial technologies, their applicability and use in so many areas of society and awareness of various viable GIS career opportunities, while you benefit from the sharing of the GeoTalk speakers. This month, the Land Information Council of Jamaica celebrates its 28th anniversary. Our success, in no small measure, has been due to the invaluable service provided by our Secretariat, the National Spatial Data Management Branch, and I thank them for their unwavering support and execution of the Council's projects and programs over the years. The annual celebration of Geography Awareness Week and GIS Day to increase public awareness are major pursuits under the LICJ's GIS in Schools Education program. In closing, my thanks to our long-standing partners and sponsors, University of the West Indies Mona, Spatial Innovation Limited, the Heart Trust NTA, Jamaica, and the Caribbean Maritime University. Finally, thank you all for joining us and participating. I sincerely hope that when our event comes to a close, you will all leave here with a better understanding of the ways in which GIS and other geospatial technologies can help us all to realize our vision of Jamaica as the place to live, work, raise families, and do business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, Chairman of the Land Information Council of Jamaica. I beg your pardon, colleagues, and this, we would have missed the prior, and our student, Miss Rachel Blake, was left hanging. However, as a nation that has a prior as its national anthem, let us invoke the presence of the Creator. Miss Blake will pray, and then Professor Boxell will continue with his greeting. So Miss Blake, and she is a 5th form student from the Convent of Mercy Alpha Academy. Miss Blake.
Right. Good morning, everyone. Please bow your heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for creating the earth and all its creations. Thank you for giving man the knowledge and wisdom to come up with these technological devices with all these amazing features, which become very handy, especially in this period. We thank you for the help and all the works that it has done for us to stay communicated and connected with each other, as we aren't able to be in the physical space. We are happy and pleased, Father, that you still gave the planners and event coordinators for this event the urge and desire to continue and do it another year, despite all that's going on, and despite the fact that we're not there physically, but here virtually. We pray that it will be a fun and educational day, and we'll just enjoy the session. And I pray that everything will run smoothly, and please, Lord, align everything, all your plans, all the plans that we have planned for this event, align it with your plans, because it will be your will, and we want this to happen according to your will. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Miss Rachel Blake from the Convent of Mercy Alpha Academy. Continuing greetings, we'll have Professor Ian Boxell, Deputy Principal of the University of the West Indies, Mona.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Raymond Poiser, who's the moderator and coordinator, National Spatial Data Management Division. Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, Mr. Glenn Ivey, guest speaker, GIS Supervisor, Network Operations Digital Jamaica, Mr. Alexander Williams, Chairman, Land Information Council of Jamaica, and Mrs. Rachel Blake, our student who just led us in prayers, Convent of Mercy Alpha Academy, our students, teachers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed my pleasure and privilege to deliver greetings on behalf of Professor Dale Weber, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of the West Indies Mona campus. It is indeed this pleasure on the occasion of the 18th anniversary of the annual World Geographic Information Systems celebrations. We wish to extend our appreciation to the National Spatial Data Management Branch and Land Information Council of Jamaica in the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, which have continued to ensure that Jamaica keeps apace with the latest developments in geospatial technologies. As an island, we are particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change, and we have to use all tools at our disposal to offset those vulnerabilities. The University of the West Indies prides itself in being a global university, which is grounded in local realities. Our reality as a region of mostly island nations is one where the effects of climate change are almost always at the forefront of our collective consciousness. The need to limit atmospheric pressure increase to 1.5 degrees in order to stay alive is part of the existential crisis we all face on this planet. We have been experiencing longer dry seasons and more frequent and violent tropical weather systems. The recent rains have wreaked havoc on the Jamaica road network. The agricultural sector is reeling, and with government contemplating a multi-billion-dollar bill for public works repairs. Cost to private citizens is steadily growing and has only served to increase the economic pressures which the COVID-19 pandemic has already intensified. The most alarming aspect of the scenario is that we have to prepare to expect such disasters much more frequently. The problems that are associated with the environmental outlook are indeed daunting, but there is hope. Advances in technology offer us many opportunities to leverage what we know that can help to mitigate these threats. They also allow us to gather and integrate information in greater detail. The integrated capacity means that we can better inform policy directives and initiatives across numerous fields, from engineering to tourism. Geographic information systems are effective tools that we can deploy to achieve this goal because they unite infinitely complex systems and enable us to conduct research and make projections about how human activities will affect the natural environment. With such knowledge, our government, farmers, urban planners, engineers, developers are more empowered in their decision making. In order to maximize the benefits of GIS, we need to have more professionals who are trained to use them. This is the only way that we can truly use geospatial technology to shape and secure our future. Students, I encourage you to seriously consider undertaking advanced training in this field. And if you are interested in computers and programming, this is one area where you can employ your skills. An integral part of our ability to continue using this technology is having a local cohort of information and computer technologists who manipulate these technologies as well as develop applications to suit our local needs. This field is full of opportunities that you can take advantage of, and I hope that when the time comes, you will consider choosing the University of the West Indies as your next training ground to develop such skills. Remember that the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are resilient people, and geospatial technologies are valuable tools that we can all use to enhance our ability to hold steady in the face of threats and to recover in the case of extreme natural occurrences. I hope that we will all do our part individually and collectively to use what is available to accomplish our goals. Thank you, and I wish you all a successful day.
Thank you very much, Professor Ian Boxell, Deputy Principal of UWI Mona. At this time, the Honorable Minister, Colonel Charles Jr., Member of Parliament and Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, will bring greetings. Colleagues, the minister is unable to share his greetings right now due to some other exigencies that demanded his time. However, he has given his word that he will be joining us in about 20 minutes, at which time we will make way for the minister to bring his greetings. Miss Nadisha Poiser, the manager for the GIS in School Education Program, an assistant trainer, will introduce our guest speaker. So at this time, Ms. Poiser, and there's no relation here, but Ms. Poiser will bring greeting, will introduce the guest speaker. And as I said earlier, the minister will join us, at which time we will allow him for to bring his greetings. Ms. Poiser.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Glenn Ivy has been in the field of urban and regional planning for almost a decade. Mr. Ivy played a key role in disaster recovery efforts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. He was also instrumental in the collection of the data needed to drive the connections of educational institutions and government buildings across Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and all the archipelago within their sovereign waters, respectively. Prior to his role at GISSEP, he was a forest ranger with the Forestry Department in Jamaica. His days spent monitoring the authorized use of Crown lands and acting as a community liaison in the parish of Portland were instrumental to his understanding of the interception of human behavior and geospatial data. He also played an integral role in the success of a joint program with the United Nations Development Program, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, and the St. Catherine Parish Council, now the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. As the spatial analyst of the local Sustainable Development Plan, he was instrumental in expanding on and updating the creation of the land use map of the Great Parish of St. Catherine, which today remains as the only updated and comprehensive land use survey of the parish. Mr. Ivy has a Bachelor of Science in Urban and Regional Planning from the University of Technology, Jamaica, and he is also certified by the Land Information Council of Jamaica in the use of GIS. Please make welcome Mr. Glenn Ivy.
Good morning, everyone. Well, as introduced, my name is Glenn Ivy. I am the Operations and Productions Manager. I'm not manager, supervisor at GIS Group, where we use GIS as an instrumental tool in carrying out our daily activities. Now, I speak to you as a literal son of the soil in terms of where my background is. Went to 3 different schools in the parish of St. Catherine, Margaret High, Jose Marte High School, and lastly, I attended St. Jago. GIS Day has played a big part in my development, as I was introduced to the software at Jose Marte Technical, believe it or not, in the 9th grade, where my geography teacher attended a GIS Day and got a sample of the very early version of the program. I believe it was 3.1. Yeah. She then gave me that program, and I used the user guide, tinkered with it a bit, made some maps, and kind of introduced myself to the program. Thereafter, when I attended the University of Technology as to complete my urban and regional bachelor's program, I was then again reintroduced to GIS by Mr. Nouvelle, who is a pioneer, I would say, with GIS in Jamaica. Thereafter, became very savvy. I found it a very easy program to use in terms of I have naturally, I would say, a spatial context to me. And I found it really amazing that there is a program that actually appeals to that aspect of myself and then allows me to use this program to then contribute to nation building. Because even as we were introduced to it, based on the capacity that we were introduced to GIS by Mr. Nouvelle and the folks at UTech in the Urban and Regional Planning Program, it was always a tool which facilitated development as we carried out various real-world tasks with the GIS that was being used at UTech in terms of data collection, data analysis, interacting with the survey aspect of it in terms of literally gathering ground points with from survey tools, and going forward into that. Now, looking at how GIS would then affect my life, I stayed away from it for a little bit in terms of during my tenure at the forestry department. And even then, I would say, instrumental in saying to the department that we manage lands, we have equipment. Let us then use these equipment in terms of the trimble GPS and then use that to better manage the whole operation in terms of going in, finding out where trees have been cut and marking these areas so that when we have repeat offenses, we can then, even from a simple visual spatial analysis, we can say, hey, this area is hot. We have trees being lost and we have whatever illegal activity taking place in the forest. So even when I thought I was away from GIS, it was a tool that was always following me. I would say, after leaving the forestry department and then going into the LSDP, in terms of that was an initiative where all major communities in St. Catherine were approached and worked with the parish council to then create a sustainable development plan, which was instrumental for the country to then move from that whole sugar background that we have to more community-based development industries. Yeah. So what my task was, which was as was stated prior, was very monumental in terms of the data collection exercise that was spearheaded by myself and Miss Stephanie Cameron, who was the project manager at the LSDP. We managed to go through the length and the breadth of St. Catherine, and we collected all the data that would be needed to have a sustainable development plan. And a big part of that plan was the land use map, which, as stated, is being used currently at the St. Catherine Parish Council to carry out daily activities in terms of monitoring and overall commercial activities, just to guide where the nodes are and see what the different parcels are doing. Yeah. From that, I was then asked to join the team at Digicel, where my path actually crossed a one Mr. Tarek Dixon, who was a part of the board at the LSDP, who is also, I would say, a pioneer in the GIS field. Yeah, during my tenure at Digicel, which I'm still here, we took on several different, I would say, nation building activities. For one, we were a part of the launch and also the maintenance of what is Jamaica's best fiber network in terms of just penetration and speed. Yeah. So GIS on a daily basis ensures that the country, GIS at Digicel on a daily basis actually ensures that the country stays connected in terms of internet connectivity, and that is just for Jamaica. We also went regionally in terms of, as you know, we are a part of the wider Caribbean. So our sister country, the Commonwealth of Dominica, was severely hit by Maria. Being that Digicel has assets in that country, we then had to think of spatial solution in terms of how we would go in, collect the data without connectivity, then get that data to a central repository, then do the necessary analysis to then feed it back to the business where they could make the necessary financial decisions to then deploy what would be needed to outfit and recover the nation of Dominica in terms of bringing it back to the first world, which Maria literally took it into the dark ages. The place was torn down, and via the GIS at Digicel, we managed to bring that network back up online, and it is now one of the regions, what I would say the regions with the highest penetration rate, and that's no fluke or fleet. It is literally attributed to the fact that GIS went in, collected the necessary data, and fed that data back into the business where they could then make sound decisions. Now, that said, I literally wanted to show what the GIS is capable of doing. Yeah. As such, I understand that we are now addressing students, and I would like for you to think about your life, your entire life as a GIS. Yeah. I want you to think about where you are now. Yeah. And think about where you would like to be in future. Yeah. When you have conceptualized that, you realizing the space that you are in now, yeah, and also knowing the space that you would like to be, you would then need to apply some GIS logic to that, yeah, because we as a your life literally is somewhat like a data set, yeah. The points that you pick up, yeah, you have to look at how these points are valuable to you, yeah. How do you approach your attributes table? What are the attributes that you are collecting, yeah? How will you enter these attributes in your database to then progress yourself as a data set to then be where you would want to be in future spatially, yeah? After you have thought about the points, think about the lines that you will travel on. Yeah, the lines that you will need to travel on. Is it that you will go down some roads that basically makes no sense? You try to collect that data, it leads to a dead end, or you will go along routes and collect well documented information that is up to date and then feed it back into your life as a GIS. Yeah. And then I would want you to think about the space that you are in terms of the boundaries. Yeah. What polygons are you operating in? Yeah. Think about your home situation. That's the biggest polygon you will operate in, your community. Yeah. Do you plan to collect the same data in your community over and over and do what everybody else is doing, or do you plan to set your attribute table and set your boundaries as wide as you can, so that when you step out of your community, you are now stepping into the age of big data? Yeah, you have the capacity to hold, process, analyze, make good decisions from what you have collected, and set yourself on a course where you can be where you would like to be in future. If you think of your life as a GIS in terms of a GIS system, and apply all the necessary I would say protocols and rules that we should follow, I think everyone in terms of who is listening in right now as a student can further themselves in in life as a whole, or if it is that you choose to go down the path where you want to be a part of a company and be a part of their GIS, or you want to do something for yourself. Yeah, and that brings me to the next point: your coordinate system. What will you be aligned to? How will you align yourself? Yeah, will you align yourself to some outdated coordinate system that when you match up to today's day, you are somewhat out of sync? Or will you align yourself to a coordinate system that is up to date and will give you a true reflection of where you are spatially when you choose to align yourself with a particular set of rules to then guide you into your GIS? So I sit here and talk to you not as a high-flung presenter. I was where you were probably in 2005, sitting in, listening to a speaker, see what I can grab, just as to give me some insight into what is possible. And in 2010, an article came out that GIS would be in 10 years on the forefront of job opportunities and also the cutting edge in technology. As you know, we move towards a world where connectivity is key, and we move into the era of 5G. And if you have any idea about the technology and how it will be instituted, yeah, you will already know that GIS will play a big role in the launch of that whenever we get to that point. Yeah. So as I say, I sit here speaking to you as somebody who has gone through the system, gone through the necessary lines, contributed as much as I can to my country, to my parish, to my home, to my colleagues, yeah, with the aid of GIS. So I sit here and I tell you that it is very possible for you to pick a career in GIS and be very successful at it. I can remember 10 or 15 years ago, I was at the point where I was seeking a GIS job. Yeah. And from where I sit now at Digicel, hopefully I can say this, we put out 2 posts the other day, one regionally for a GIS engineer and one locally for a GIS technician. So people are now aware of the power of GIS, both from a private sector point of view and also a public sector point of view. So the train literally is in the station. So I would urge everybody that can get yourself together, get some GIS skills, pay attention to what you're doing, apply the GIS to your life, apply it to your career, and make it a part of yourself, as it will pay off in future. And I believe that is where I would close. Thank you very much for having me. I hope some of what I said managed to get through to somebody, and we can, yeah, basically just thank you very much for having me. Thanks.
not seeing where.
So we thank you very much, Mr. Glenn Ivey, Supervisor in charge of Network Operations at GISSEP. Thank you very much for your speech this morning and your message to the GIS community and our students who have been who are logged on onto this. We want to say thank you very much. Colleagues, as with the age we are in and forced to host these events virtually, our minister, the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., is experiencing some technological glitches, and because he was on a while ago, but he is not able to share his greetings just yet. So what he's doing is actually logging off to log on again. So we crave for your understanding, and in about 5 minutes, the minister will bring his greetings. In the meantime, we just want to share with our students, our teachers, and those of the public joining us as well, that indeed, while we celebrate GIS Day, though it's virtual, the concept still remains that indeed geospatial technologies are shaping our future. The world that we know today is not the world that existed 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. These changes are happening in our lifetime, and we are witnesses to them. It's our work as professionals, GIS professionals. It's also helping to shape the future, and so we take this seriously. GIS and geospatial technologies are used routinely in fields as diverse as business and marketing, emergency management, environmental planning, geointelligence and security, risk assessment, urban planning, utilities management, to name just a few. And guess what? Studies suggest that industries such as the telecommunications, utilities, transportation, education, and scientific research constitute some of the largest consumers of this technology, and there is great capacity for growth. So as Mr. Ivey pointed out in his talk with you, that embrace the technology, see where you want to go with it, see the path that you want to chart, because indeed our lives are being changed, and whether we know it or not, geospatial technologies impact our lives significantly. And the simple tools at our fingertips provide amazing capabilities that we can make better decisions through and aid in policy making. The value of GIS is realized through its application in numerous daily tasks. Logistic companies use it to plan optimal delivery routes. The insurance companies assess risk and vulnerability using geospatial data. As I was pointing out some time ago, that the beauty with this, you know, when people hear about GIS Day and ask what is GIS and geospatial technologies, and the experts and the professionals, you know, go about telling them what is this fantastic phrase that we are using. I said, the beauty of it is geospatial technology is applicable to every discipline once it uses space, and we all exist on the earth and occupy space on earth, right? And that is why geospatial technologies are fantastic. We see even in our COVID-19 response, we look every day on the Johns Hopkins University's dashboard. We see several areas. The data is there to show the countries with the highest incidence of COVID-19. We see the countries that, and the cases are shown in real time, right? Here in Jamaica, we have our local GIS experts and professionals who are working also to display this. And that is why even, we could have seen the maps with the affected areas and where the cases were emerging, when the Prime Minister was having the press conference, several evenings we were glued to our television sets because of the fascination that geospatial technologies bring in showing us clearly in visual form where are the areas. It's one thing to be here in Clarendon and Portmore, St. James, but to see where we can zoom in to the specific areas, it's amazing. And I would encourage the students, embrace this technology, embrace it, because it's where the world is going. That's where the world is going. We are awaiting word from our minister, who will be joining us soon. As I said, he was experiencing some technological glitches. In the meantime, I just want to remind you that this is the 18th National GIS Day Exposition, and history is being created, as 2020 will be a very historical year because of the different events that are happening in our lifetime. When we were growing up, we were told by our parents and grandparents about events that took place prior to our coming into this world. Many of them would have rest on our minds to the point where it shaped our perspectives of the world around us. And even some of the ferocious weather systems that we encountered as a country. We all heard about Charlie in 51, and of course, I was privileged to experience Gilbert. But there were other systems that, impacted us as a country. Now we can proudly say that our meteorological service division is able to provide us with accurate forecast in most cases, of course, and I applaud them because, I remember the days when we did not have this sort of technology available. We never had the expertise, residing in government to provide the policies as well as to chart a way forward using these sort of technologies and making more accurate forecasting. But I say it shows you that geospatial technologies are indeed making a difference, because when we look over the past weeks. Every week that the Meteorological Service Division said that we were experiencing a trough or some weather system, it proved to be true. And we even experienced, as was pointed out by Professor Ian Boxell, our infrastructure came under severe stress to the point where our Prime Minister declared, you know, $1 billion to do some road rehabilitation works. We have seen, you know, the deforestation in some areas. Mr. Ivy would have spoke about his time at the forestry department when they use geospatial technologies to map the areas where trees were cut. And that sort of technology will bring us to the point where we can make better decisions. It enables decision making, and we can develop appropriate policies and action plans. We see even in agriculture, through precision farming, geospatial technologies are being applied. So farmers and farm professionals can know where to place certain inputs and in what quantities. So we are actually moving more efficient and maximizing crop yields. And importantly, importantly for the global importantly for the global community, we are enhancing agriculture while improving food security. It is very important, and sometimes we, you know, because of the simple aspect of the technology, we overlook its power. Just look at, you might be taking a photo and the location tab is on. You can go back on that photo and see exactly where you were. It's because of geospatial technology. So let us embrace it. And as I said, the theme is applicable. And I think it's a continuum that we could use every year. We could use this theme, geospatial technologies shaping our future, because indeed our future is being shaped by these technologies in every aspect, housing, education, telecommunications, geology, insurance, disaster management, crime fighting, and you name it. I also want to say that the schools that have registered for the various competitions and activities that will be on later, that they should get themselves ready. And as of course, we will have our GIA talks later, and this is very important for students because this is where professionals, GIS professionals, will talk with students in terms of a career path. You can it involves panel discussion where you will post your questions to the panelists, They will answer questions related to geospatial technologies, geographic information systems, and of course, careers that you can chart out of and pursue out of this whole GIS thing. So it's a wonderful and fascinating technology.
Yes,
So
so you're actually very right, and this can be used in many ways to be implemented in our lives, in our daily life. And all that you're saying, I'm just like, wow, this is really true.
right. So guess what? Our minister is ready. We will make welcome the Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., Member of Parliament and Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change. Minister, welcome. Kindly turn on the camera, please.
My camera.
Make welcome.
Are you seeing me? Hello?
Not seeing you yet.
Not sure why.
I'm seeing you, Mr. I'm seeing you.
You seeing me?
Yes, sir.
Well, as long as you're seeing me, we can move forward. I do. Mr. Paul, so you're not seeing me?
No, Minister. Maybe it's from the control section. The technicians need to release you to be seen.
Yes, sir, we can see you.
Okay.
I'm able to see it.
Let me move forward so that I don't take up any much more time. Let me firstly and foremostly say thank you for the opportunity to be here with you on this very important 18th National GIS Day Exposition. It's a very important theme as well, geospatial technologies and how it will shape our future. Of course, I want to acknowledge firstly Mr. Poyser doing a very good job, Spatial Plan Coordinator at our National Spatial Data Management Branch. I see my good friend Mr. Alexander Williams, Chairman of the Land Information Council of Jamaica. I don't know if Professor Boxell is still on, but I imagine that he should have been here, Deputy Principal of UWI. The guest speaker as well, Mr. Glenn Ivey. Ladies and gentlemen, teachers, students, everyone, a good morning to you. I didn't have the benefit of listening to much of the presentations before me, so I hope that I don't repeat too much, but if I do, bear with me. Again, it is my distinct pleasure to have the opportunity to not only welcome you, but to participate in this very important exposition that is being hosted by our Land Information Council of Jamaica and also our National Spatial Data Management Branch of the new and dynamic Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change. I heard Mr. Poyser say, and he rightfully did say, that last year when we had this exposition, it was held at that time at the Assembly Hall of UWI, Mona Campus, for Jamaica's GIS Day, and under vastly different circumstances. At that time, the hall was surrounded and decorated with many exhibits displaying how the various geospatial technologies would be utilized by public and private sector entities, as well as educational institutions. And we had hundreds of teachers and students from secondary and tertiary institutions, all excited for the unfolding of the day's pursuits. And now we have to meet virtually. And I want to commend the Land Information Council of Jamaica, as well as our National Spatial Data Management Branch and their partners, including UWI, for rising to meet the challenges that have been presented by COVID-19 that has caused us to have to be meeting using this forum. It demonstrates the creativity and innovation in us having to virtually stage this year's exposition. But despite the challenges, the projects, the programs and the initiatives of the government of Jamaica will have to continue. I know that you will hear a lot about the use of geospatial technologies, and we all share in the understanding that it has certainly increased significantly in many institutions who are using it now, and steadily increasing among others in the public and private sectors, both here in Jamaica as well as in the wider Caribbean region. I'm very happy that Jamaica is a pioneer and continues to lead in the use of this technology within the Caribbean, and we are ranked first in the region and 9th out of 55 countries within the North, South, Latin American, Caribbean region. In fact, Jamaica is the only Caribbean country that is ranked within the top 25. And this landmark achievement for our nation is evidence of the pioneering work in the field that has been carried out by our Land Information Council as well as the National Spatial Data Management Branch, and also reflects the hard work that they put in to promote the technology both here, throughout the Caribbean, and locally. Again, I send my congratulations and commendations to both entities. And I acknowledge also for all of us who are participating that Jamaica has played a role in promoting the use of this technology, particularly through training, education, and also public awareness initiatives such as this. And I note that the advancing of the geospatial education and training opportunities for Government of Jamaica entities is something which we have also advanced throughout recent times. Initiatives for the GOJ staff with geospatial knowledge and skill sets that are very critical in the execution of their duties, such as Mr. Poise and his team. Simply put, this technology and the methods used to innovate, collect, manage, and analyze information about our Earth, including the geographic location of natural and man-made features. This is what is called geospatial technology. And it is important to us, particularly as a means of us making better decisions. It provides us with an understanding of the patterns, of the linkages, the trends about our nation, region, and planet. And it's going to allow for us to manage our limited resources, sustainable plans for the future of our country and region. This is certainly evidenced in the enormous potential that will come through our planners, entrepreneurs, academics, environmentalists, policymakers like myself and others utilizing geospatial technology. Mr. Williams and his team at the Land Information Council have started the GIS in School Education program and continued. I know that that was started back in 2001 with the support from the Environmental Systems Research Institute. And the goal of that was to promote, or is to promote, the use of geospatial technology within the teaching of geography and social studies. Subsequently, additional support has also now been provided to facilitate an enterprise license agreement for schools program with the provision of GIS software, licenses, and training, and that is also very, very important. The ministry and the council, we both remain committed to partnering with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, as well as you, Mona, in promoting the continued use and effective use of geospatial technology in driving education and in driving training opportunities towards future viable and innovative career options for our youngsters, particularly at a time like this, when we know that we are challenged economically and the constraints that will flow from the effects of the pandemic. This type of technology offers an opportunity for us to have diversification of options for our students and young professionals. So let me at this time extend my sincerest gratitude to the University of the West Indies, Mona, for its unwavering support in hosting the usual annual GIS celebrations for the past 18 years. We are confident that your investment in advancing education at the secondary and tertiary level will undoubtedly ensure your future sustained growth as well as for the country. We look forward to the National GIS Day Exposition returning to its home, hopefully very soon. The Assembly Hall, I know, is waiting for us in 2021, barring no unforeseen or other pandemics. I'll knock on wood. And as you will hear during this exposition, the applications of the technology that we speak of, is endless. And as the theme states, it is part indeed of the shaping of our future and the advancement of the realization of our mutual goals that are found in our National Development Plan, Vision 2030. As you await the benefits from the exciting presentations to come and the competitions that I know are ahead, again, allow me to just welcome, thank, and acknowledge all of you as participants in the exposition. I thank you. Please stay safe to everyone, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We know that we have your support in these sort of technologies and work that will propel us to where we want to go as a country. And we know that geospatial technologies and GIS, and encourage students to principal, the UA Mona, and of course, our Honorable Minister Pernell Charles, Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Glenn Ivey, the GIS Supervisor in charge of Network Operations at Digicel. Thank you very much, Miss Rachel Blake, for the prayer that you prayed earlier on, and Miss Nadisha Poyser, the GIS in School Education Program Manager and Assistant Trainer, for introducing Mr. Ivey. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we leave it for the opening ceremony. Please stay logged on because GeoTalks will come up in 5 minutes. So we'll break for 5 minutes, but don't log off because GeoTalks come up, and this is where the professionals will speak with students, talking to them about GIS and its various applications, and them choosing a career path out of GIS. So, from Raymond Poyser, the moderator, thank you very much. Have a blessed day and a geo-fantastic week. Thanks.
she was love at first sight. Ooh, I met a girl this morning, and she was beauty to my eyes. I asked her where she from, she tell me in the tropics. She asked me what's my name, I tell her I am Connie. And I said, girl, tell me what's your name, and she tell me that her name is Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Oh, Lord, smile for me, Jamaica. Never you cry, here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. Dry your eyes, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. Lord, hey, she have a rich history. A beautiful woman with the sweetest gifts. Beautiful sunrise and an evening kiss. Of a nice sunset on the evening season. But she tell me, say she tired. Tired of the exploit and the liars. She give them reggae, give them beaches, give them flowers and the ferns. All she got is abuse in return. But I say, don't you worry yourself, mama. Hey, Chronix is here to your help, mama. Ooh, I said, no worry yourself, mommy. One thing me, I beg you do for me. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Hey, smile for me, Jamaica. Never you cry. Here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. What must I try? Oh, my. And that she asked me, and this is what me say. A sweet, sweet chronics, you forgive them, give them. The one drop beat from a rhythm. Are you give them bob with a different step in? Are you give them bolt, nobody can run left him. Boy, but see ya, they must see things say you're out of ideas. You give them art and sweet literature. You're gonna make the world see the better picture. I said, no worry yourself, mama. Chronix is here to your help, mama. Hey, I said, no worry yourself, mommy. One thing me I beg you do. And I said, smile, yeah, smile, boy. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Wah, 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 wah. For me, Jamaica. Never you cry. Here am I, whoa. For me, Jamaica. And I said, smile. Boy, you may do it. Boy, boy, boy.
Oh, what a night, what a night, what a night. Oh gosh, what a night. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms, dancing to a reggae song. Feel good, feel good. I feel good, 'cause your perfume isn't loud, and only I can talk about. Feel good, feel good. You feel like velvet rubbing over my skin. And when your hair dances under my chin, wish we were alone, baby, just the two of us. Yes, every move you make gives me a rush. Oh, oh. Wine some more, show me that love unconditionally. Make believe we're alone, just you and me. Take the problems, leave them behind. Don't let it show. Go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms, dancing to a reggae song. Feel good, feel good. I feel good, 'cause your perfume isn't loud, that only I can talk about. Feel
morning, everyone. We'll be starting in a few minutes, or a minute or so. Just giving you a heads up. So even though you can see me live, I haven't really started that just yet. So we'll be starting. So. Okay, I know.
Hey, Walter, all is well?
Hey, Gary. Yep, I'm good. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And see you.
Yeah. All right. It says bad network quality. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you guys. All right, cool. All right, so we're gonna start. Trisha and Jermaine, I'll ask you guys to open your cameras for us.
My camera is open, Walter. You're not seeing me?
Oh yes, I'm seeing you now. I wasn't seeing you earlier. Yeah, I can see you now, Jermaine. All right, thank you guys for joining us. All right, so just a few housekeeping matters before we get into the GeoTalk session. The competitions that we normally have on GIS Day, we're going to postpone them for this year, for today. So what has happened is that we have not gotten sufficient uptake for the competitions, and we want to have as wide a reach and greater participation as we can possibly have. So we are extending the application period so that we can allow for additional schools to join, and some of the teachers have also asked for additional time to prepare some of the students for the competitions that we'll be having. So in the near future, what we'll do is we'll send out notification to the schools and to the agencies about when we will have these competitions. So if you're a judge or you're a registered participant for these competitions, for your information, they are postponed for today. We will keep your contact information if you're a student and you've already registered, and you won't have to re-register. Your registration will be maintained for a new date for the competitions. So that's by way of announcement. I just want you guys to know that. All right. So we're going to go into the GeoTalks session. GeoTalks is a session where we allow for professionals to share some of their professional experience with students so that they can be guided in their career path if they so choose to pick GIS or geospatial career pathways, how they can do that, what they should study, and so on. And this year we're doing it virtually by a panel discussion. If you have questions, I'm going to ask you to put those in the Q&A section, and I will read those to the panelists. But I also have some questions that I will start with. I'm going to ask, before we get into the questions, for each of the panelists to introduce themselves. I won't introduce them, they'll tell you who they are. And then I have a few follow-up questions, and then if there are questions in the chat, I will field those questions. So I'm going to start with my very good friend, Mr. Jermaine Remiki. I'm going to ask him to just introduce himself, and then Trisha Ray, you can go, and then Ramoski, and then Gary. So in that order, you guys can introduce yourselves to the participants. Can go ahead, Jermaine.
Yes, hello, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. We can hear you fine. Go ahead.
All right, so my name is Jamaica Remiki. I'm the GIS manager for the National Works Agency. Let me see, I'm a geologist. I think that's my first profession, so I still consider myself as geologist at heart, but I'm also a GIS professional, having worked in that field for many years. Love of basketball, that's the next love, and just climbing with friends and going out. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Jermaine. Trisha, you can go.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Trisha Rodriguez. I am a GIS specialist at the Water Resources Authority. And I, like Jermaine and I were in the same class at school. So geology was my first choice as well, and geography, a geography minor. But I have since met GIS and fallen in love. I basically wanted to be in another life a writer. So I was a literature person initially, but I ended up in this field and I have since adopted to it quite well, I believe.
Thank you, Trisha. So Rosalie, you can go ahead.
Hi, good day, everyone. You're able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
All right. So I am Ramoski Russell. Everyone seems to be saying their previous passion. So I was formally trained in land surveying and GIS first. So land surveying was my first love. Saw how GIS could be, coined with it with many other things, the capabilities it had to offer, and it just sparked my interest. And bad to say, surveying kind of took a back burner because I found this new love now. So I'm a land surveyor a surveyor first and foremost, went to the University of Technology. And currently I am the Geographic Information Systems Manager for the Electoral Office of Jamaica. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you, Ramaski. Gary, you're up next. No, Gary, we can't hear you. Your mic is muted.
My apologies. Morning, everyone. My name is Gary Laban. I am with the Ames Municipal Corporation, a GIS consultant. I actually studied urban and regional planning at UTech before they had a semester format. Did I just age myself? But I've always liked geography, and my father worked at Water Resources Authority, where Miss Rodriguez is right now. So I think I've always had an affinity for geography. And I just fell in love with GIS.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Gary. All right. I guess for the purposes of the students, they would probably want to know, what did you guys study at university? I mean, in terms of what is your qualification now? So, BS in URP, Gary, and then is that the only qualification that you have, or what are some of the qualifications that you guys have in your cadre, so that they can know, what are some of the paths that they can take in applying to universities? And Gary, you can go ahead first this time, and we'll go the other way.
So I have my BSc in Urban and Regional Planning from the University of Texas. I also have a Master's of Arts in Geography with a concentration in GIS from Chicago State University.
Okay, so that's URP at UTech.
URP.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you. Ms. Russell, you could go ahead and tell us about that as well.
All right, so I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Technology. It was in land surveying and geographic information systems. I also did a master's with the Florida International University, and that was in business administration.
Thank you. Trisha, could you go ahead?
Right. So I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of the West Indies in geology with a geography minor. And I have currently gotten acceptance to the University of Technology for a master's program in built environment with an emphasis on geomatics, which I hope to pursue sometime next year, if COVID don't catch us. So there's that. And I've also been certified through various courses offered by the LICJ and online courses as it relates to GIS specifically.
Okay. Mr. Miki, your mic is muted.
So my first degree is I have a Bachelor's of Science in Geography and Geology. I did a double major, so I have so it's both of them. After that, I did a Master's in Integrated Rural and Urban Environmental Management, and I did a few certifications after that as well. So yeah.
Okay. Could you tell us how long you've been in the industry? How long have you been working in the geospatial field?
In the geospatial field, well, I mean, my journey is a little interesting. I had my first, I would say my first introduction to GIS or the geospatial field would be as far back as 2007. So that's so much years ago, that like 13 years ago.
Where was this?
That was actually with the Mona Geoinformatics Institute.
Okay.
So I worked there part-time, or as a GIS technician. So they were doing the JamNav project. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that project, Walter.
Yeah, man.
So they were doing the road navigation project, GPS road navigation project. So I was helping to digitize a few of the roads because I wasn't smart enough to be accepted to the GIS program at UA. There was only an elite few that would have been accepted to that GIS course. But somebody felt sorry for me and gave me a part-time job. So that was my first introduction to GIS. So I would say from 2007 right through till now, I would have been in the field per se. May not have been working directly in the field, but I would have been using the software.
All right, thank you. Gary, how are you introduced to the industry, and how long have you been a part of the industry? I think your mic is muted again, Gary. It's the consequence of the virtual space.
Yes. No, I was introduced to the software back in 2000.
Yeah.
And my first job outside of school was with Windalco Kirkline Works in Manchester. Land acquisition officer. So, and then since then, it has been government agency after government agency after government agency. Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, City of Chicago, back to local government here in St. James.
Okay, cool. Mr. Russell, can you walk us through your journey a bit?
I was introduced to the software in 2004. That's when I started UTech. My first job in GIS was with the JPS as a summer intern. That was in 2005. In 2006, I got another summer job with the National Water Commission in their GIS department under the tutelage of Ms. Williamson. And Ms. Williamson was one of the instrumental persons that made me fall in love with the software even further, along with Miss Smith from UTech. Their love for the software and how they showed us what we could do with it made me fall in love with it even more. I graduated in 2008, and I think I started working at EOJ before I graduated. They came and they recruited me from UTech before I actually was finished with my exams. And I started working there and then went to graduation while working here. So, and I've been working here with the electoral office since then, been promoted. I think I came on as their first GIS analyst. I was promoted up the ranks and now I'm the GIS manager.
Cool. Recruited straight out of school. That's a that's a nice story.
It is.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Trisha, could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey in this field? So how long have you been here and what was your journey like to where you are now?
Yeah, so I was first introduced to GIS during the final year of UE. That was in 2008. Yes, I'm old. We did a course in GIS. Before then, I didn't have a clue as to what GIS was, but everybody was saying, you need to do this course. So I did this course. And after I left UE, I did a short internship at Mona Informatics. It turned into a year of work. And that is where I truly appreciated the wide applicability of GIS, because that organization worked on several projects and it crossed multiple disciplines. So there was the human geography aspect and there's the physical environmental based aspect. And of course, there's the GPS and so on. After leaving MGI, I then started to work at the WRE. So for the past 10 years or so, I've been rooted in GIS and I've been enjoying it more or less. Yes.
Thank you guys for sharing that. I'm going to take a question from the chat. So somebody's asking what's the difference between a GIS technician and a GIS engineer. I don't know who wants to take that one.
Well, I'm going to give it a try. Yeah, a GIS technician and a GIS engineer.
Yes, that's the question. What's the difference between?
Well, a GIS technician usually does basic GIS work. You're talking about maybe you have a scale of GIS experts. Usually it starts at the technician level, then you have the officer, then you have the analyst, the specialist, and then the managers. The engineer would probably fall somewhere on the scale of the specialist, because the engineer implies that they're doing specialist work in that field, depending on what field it is, while the technician is doing basic digitizing of features in the environment, that kind of idea.
Okay, thank you, Trisha. Anybody else want to give it a shot?
A technician also could be coined also in the fieldwork aspect, because it doesn't necessarily is tied down to the desk work aspect. Because in my organization, my technicians have dual roles. They go out in the field and map what is required. They come back in, they download the data, they process it, and they incorporate it into whatever work aspect that might be necessary at the time. Now, the engineer, I will coin that in relation to probably an analyst level or an administrator level for my organization, where they're given more permissions, more authority over the data. They're able to delve into the data and properly able to do analysis that a technician may not necessarily do the analysis. They may just be in charge of the inputs, the capture and the input of the data.
Right. All right. So, okay, cool. Thank you for that. I guess going back to my list now, what are some of the skills that you've developed early in your career that have, that you would suggest that persons who are coming into this field work on early in their career to kind of give them a good foundation as a GIS professional?
If I may.
Come on, Guy, go ahead.
Starting out, it's familiarizing yourself with the software. Like any chance you get, use the software. Watch your tutorials, use the software. Read a book, use the software. For example, I did an interview once and the person just asked me, okay, can you tell me how to add data without using the add data, functionality? And I was like, pardon me? They're like, just add data. And I was like, okay. I was dragging from our catalog and everything. He's like, okay, stop. Okay, you've had some experience, because what the books and the lecturers and everybody who taught you GIS, they say, functionality, step by step, add data. But once you get some experience, you realize you don't have to do everything that way. So it's good to really familiarize yourself with the software. That's one of my biggest takeaways.
Yeah, thanks for that, Gary. I have a question here, and I'm going to use it to segue into one in the chat. So the question is, and this is to everybody, which is more valuable to you, or which has been more valuable to you in your career, your formal education or your on-the-job experience? And the segue question is, Ashley is asking, do you think it's possible to successfully enter the GIS field with only short courses rather than a degree? And she wants suggestions for short courses that you guys think would be helpful for her. So the first question is, which is more valuable to you, your experience or your education? And then Ashley would like to know, if it's possible to enter the field without having a degree in GIS. And she's asking for suggestions for short courses.
May I try and attempt the question?
Sure, no problem.
For me, it's hard to differentiate my training versus experience because I got training first and then the experience came after. However, training gets you to a point, right? They can teach you, but for the real world experience, negotiating the different things, the nuances, the data set that you have to deal with are different, right? You can't be taught every single nuances. So the experience of doing it yourself, falling in love, having a problem and trying to figure out how to get around those issues. I think for me, probably the experience, not just stuff a little bit, but the education is key. So I don't want to say education is any less. Education is key. In terms of short courses, I can speak specifically for my entity. We have hired persons who did not have a degree in GIS, right? We have hired persons that have done short courses and we have brought them up to speed, but those persons wouldn't be hired in the top tier level. They would probably be hired as a technician. We train them in-house. We send them to the NSDM body to get additional training, to monitor informatics, wherever that we see that they're lacking in, and send them to additional training and bring them up to speed in terms of what may be necessary. So we've done that in the past.
Yeah, and yes, in addition to that, I would marry both of them, the education and the training, right? It depends on what specifically you do, because GIS is a broad field and you can apply it to practically any discipline. So if you're going to be a geologist working at, if you're going to be a GIS expert working in the mines and geology division, it would probably be very good to have a geology background, to have a basic understanding of the principles that underlie geology. Because when you are using the software in GIS, whatever software it is very important to understand the criteria that you're inputting, the different functionalities. Sometimes it may apply to this discipline, but it doesn't apply to that discipline. I find, for example, in water resources, if we are using any of those models in ArcGIS, it is important to understand what the different terms mean in the hydrology tool set, that sort of thing. So having a theoretical background can enhance the work that you do. But at the same time, when you're on the job, that is perhaps where you are going to learn most of what you know. So they both go hand in hand.
And to add to that, I would really agree with what other panelists have said. Training and experience, they both go hand in hand. I don't know which one I would consider more important. I really think, especially for GIS, it's such a specialist type of field. A lot of the things, you can go on YouTube or go online or you get some self-training, but really to get some formal training, it will really help in terms of achieving whatever goals you want to achieve in the field. Experience will help you in terms of learning more. So it's like driving a car. You can read a book and do all that, but you really experience how to be a good driver when you're on the road and in certain situations and you learn how to react. It's the same thing in GIS. You know, when you're given a task and you hit up on certain roadblocks, when you learn to navigate the GIS world, that is when you really become an expert in the field, and that comes with experience.
Definitely, experience and education works hand in hand. I mean, you start off with the education initially, but then the experience will definitely take you a long way. You know, moving forward in your career, the experience really comes in handy because each discipline or field that you're working utilizing GIS will demand a different skill set each time. You know, not all data collection is the same or is uniform across the board. So definitely experience at the end of your education.
And just to add one more point also, I would say training is important as well, in that everybody here on this panel, we've all been in trainings together pretty much. And we've been in the field a long time and we're still being trained because the software is always evolving. There's every year, you know, there's a big conference where they introduce new changes, new updates. So training is ongoing, especially with GIS, which is so forward thinking, so futuristic. So I just wanted to add that key point to it.
I agree totally, Jermaine. It seems like training never ends for our field. There's always something else to go and learn.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially if you're switching like a different job. You know, you're like, yeah, you know GIS, but then you know GIS this way in this company or what they do, and you're like, oh, let me go do some reading.
Yeah, I can remember when we used to have 9.3, and that's where I started, and I'm sure you guys started with stuff before that.
3x. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. So somebody else is asking, can a general degree in geography get you into the GIS working world, or does it require formal training and qualification in GIS specifically? So I think some of the answers that we provided should answer this question, but I will, as Jermaine and Trisha were in that department at UA specifically, I guess you guys can speak more directly to it.
For you to get for a job specific in the field of GIS, to have a basic geography degree, yes, you can maybe able to get in, but most jobs that I see, even basic GIS technicians or GIS analysts, most of the jobs that advertise at entry level, they ask for a degree in geography, and then they ask for some form of certification GIS, so some short course that they may have done in GIS, because they really want you to have a little bit of background in GIS, instead of just going there fresh with just geography knowledge. So it would be good if you had some form of certification. It could have been a 6-week course, a 3-week course, but something to show that you're already familiarized with the system.
But most geography courses now they offer GIS.
Yeah, a module in GIS, correct?
Right. So in we did a GIS semester, you know, a course in GIS and spatial diffusion, did a 2-week training, and that's how I started out. And then I went to India, and then I've been doing LICJ training. So there are a lot of ways you can go about it, getting started. So, but it helps to get some form of experience.
All right. I mean, I think this panel discussion would not be complete without a question about COVID. So somebody's asking, you know, how can we use GIS to help contain COVID outbreak? So if you guys, you know, want to answer that, the floor is open. You can go ahead.
I'll start. I know initially for my organization, once the COVID hit, we were approached to help those entities involved in sharing or base information was the background for everything that they built on in terms of watching for the COVID. So we shared our data set in terms of the boundaries of Jamaica, the constituencies, the electoral divisions, which kind of narrowed down the boundaries so they could detail in on specific areas, in specific communities, to see how the spread was going and see where it was spreading to. And those entities built on that data set and added more data, went out in the field and did their mapping, and they did their analysis to see based on where the past spreading has been, where it is going to go, the trajectory in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So I think it's instrumental as GIS, and that's one of the things I love about GIS, its ability to project, to predict the analysis that are there to predict the future based on past trends, right? And I think that helped the government initially, and it continues to help them in their fight against the pandemic.
Okay, go ahead, Jermaine.
You can go, Trish.
Okay, yeah, just to add to that, one of the beautiful things about GIS in Jamaica is that through the Land Information Council and by extension NERGIS, that's the National Emergency Response GIS team, whenever there is an event of significance such as COVID, different members of different government agencies may be called upon to assist with COVID-related mapping, and that has happened in the initial stages of the pandemic. Where so persons like myself, I'm not in the Ministry of Health, but I'm a part of NERGIS, and I think NWA as well. Were called into the emergency operations center at ADPEM to assist with putting the information together in those initial stages. And of course, I think, Walter, the dashboard for COVID was shared this morning. That is all GIS, and I think you're probably the best person to speak to that. But the beauty of GIS is that being in your field in Jamaica, you're not limited to that area because of collaboration with the agencies.
And in addition to what Trisha said, the GIS it's an integral component of the COVID response, because in addition to mapping where cases exist and seeing where clusters may be occurring, they also used it to monitor persons who would have flown into the country from high-risk areas through an application that the persons they had to put on their phones. So it was used to track persons, and whenever they left the house within the quarantine period, they were called by the Ministry of Health, and that was strictly through the use of GIS. So it's a great tool. It was utilized heavily, and persons really saw the importance of the technology during COVID.
Walter, you're muted.
Yeah, I just realized. All right, cool. Thanks, Jermaine. I've shared the COVID dashboard in the chat, so if anybody wants to go ahead and look at that, that's some of the work that we've been doing through NERGIS. So dashboards basically give you a summary of what's happening with the data, but also gives you a spatial component, so you can actually look at different areas, and the metrics or the numbers could change based on this. So you guys can check that out. The link is in the chat. I have another question here that says, what software are you guys using? And you guys can answer that, but I'm just going to tie that to one question and then we're going to wrap up. So it says, in what direction do you think the GIS industry is going in the future? And so I guess you can talk about software development and what kind of skills are necessary for a person who is looking to join this field in the near future.
Yeah, so where GIS is going, it's getting more and more technology heavy, right? And a lot of what I'm seeing now is drones, remote sensing, that sort of real-time data collection, so that instead of going in the field, collecting data, coming in the office, processing, everything that you do is being synced all in one go. And I think that is very powerful. In terms of the dashboards, you would have seen that with COVID and so on, and other agencies are putting up theirs as well. So that's another powerful way of visualizing and analyzing data. I think that one of the important aspects of GIS, regardless of the field you are in, is programming. I have found that for persons who have GIS, who have a programming background, that greatly enhances what they're able to do, because all software are packaged with certain standard tools and functions, and so sometimes you may want to tailor it to what you want to do. And I find having programming, if you can even do a short course in the programming software of your choice that corresponds with the GIS software that you use, I find that would be very, very helpful.
Yes, well, currently I'm using ArcGIS Pro heavily. Like before, it was ArcGIS Desktop for me, everything, but now everything is Pro because with data collection, using collector, I mean, everything is seamless because I'm working online more now than ever before. And programming, that's where I think it is headed, and it's all dependent on the agency and what they are doing, where you decide end up working. I mean, I've been utilizing GIS for a long time, and data collection techniques have changed tremendously. I mean, where GIS is going, I cannot sit here and say it's definitely going that way. You never know where it will end up. And I've been in GIS since what, 2002, 3, like using it heavily, and it has changed significantly a lot. I find myself catching up sometimes, like, wow, why didn't I know this? So it's really something. And ArcGIS Pro and working with ArcGIS Online, using story maps, the dashboards, everything, it works. And it's an easier interface for the non-users and the end users. So yeah, long live GIS.
So at NWA we use ArcMap, and we also use Pro. Use Pro as well, and we use ArcGIS Online. So just like what everybody else is saying, I see pretty much the technology is transitioning to this more cloud-based type of technology where everything doesn't have to be on-premise. We're moving away, because even now we're looking to upgrade to get some GPS units, and we're considering, instead of the traditional handheld GPS device, they're now having Android-based trimble devices, which and instead of the traditional ArcPad or TerraSync, we're now moving to ArcCollector, which is more more of a cloud Android-based type of thing. So I say everything is moving more to that type of online platform where everything is more real time. You can go out in the field, you can do your mapping, you can see everything in real time. So it's moving to that level. Also, I take the point about programming, but I see where our effort was actually or is being made by Esri to have persons without that strong programming background still be able to make their own applications, configure their own applications. There are no templates available that can be used. So for example, we're here involved in road management. There are road management templates available, and you can customize them, without having that heavy programming background. So I see where they're trying to make the technology a little bit more accessible and a little bit more easier for persons without that specialist background to use. And I'm very happy to see that,
And just
to add one thing to that, sorry. Okay, just to add to that, it can be field specific as well. So for
I was just about to say that.
water resources, boy, I wish there were more of those templates for some of the things you guys do. But yeah, it can be field specific. So the takeaway there is what field you decide to go into with GIS is very, very important.
For example, the FM feature manipulation engine, I didn't know anything about this for 2018. And working in Chicago at O'Hare International Airport, like they rely heavily on it, converting from CAD to GIS. But depending on the department at the airport, it's not readily translatable. So they're like, no, just use the FME. Like, FME, okay. What is that? Did my little research, watch YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, this is good. I don't have to be the one who has to find out how to backslash forward, programming. And so there are tools out there depending on the agency you're working with and the field you're in.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
the tools really, yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Walter. Sorry.
No. I was just saying same thing that Gary was saying. There are these tools that are available to bridge the gap between that programming background and GIS background. Yeah.
All right. So that which kind of ties up with what I was about to say. So let me start with the first question. So at the electoral office, we use an enterprise system because we have multiple points of access. We have offices right across the island. So we use an enterprise system software along with desktop ArcGIS application. Where I see GIS going, for me, GIS transforms based on whatever the need of the society. Whatever the need is for that particular point, it transforms to fit whatever the issues are or the problems occurring at that time. Trisha mentioned real-time data capture. Entities, businesses out there wanted their data real-time as opposed to collecting, combating, downloading. And the various tools and templates were developed to satisfy those needs. We had significant need for programming happening. Persons didn't have the programming background, right? So that gap needed to be bridged. Templates were developed. Solutions on the Esri platform were developed for those who did not have the know-how to get to bridge that gap, to get to that point of getting a solution out there. So where I see GIS heading, anywhere that there's a need for society, that is where GIS is going.
Yeah, I remember when COVID just started, there was a dashboard from, I think it was Boston University, and now almost synonymous with COVID. If you're reporting on COVID, you need a dashboard. Exactly. All right, I think we've passed the time for ending. So I just want to thank the panelists for agreeing to do this and sharing aspects of their lives and their journey career-wise with us. So thank you, Jermaine, Trisha, Maski,
excuse me,
Gary.
Walter.
Can I go ahead, Trisha?
Yeah, just one thing though. I saw one very important question, which is how can we access GIS to use it for the SVA component at CSEC and CAPE? Given there are students here, I don't know if you quickly just wanted to address that.
Sure.
As you missed the question, they were asking first question, where can they access GIS course? Where are GIS course? You missed that very first question as well.
Right, so what I was planning to do was to answer some of these questions in the chat after the event. But since you guys have put me on the spot, I guess I have to now do that. So, all right. We have a GIS in Schools program, GIS in Schools education program, which we're pursuing with some select schools. So it depends on the readiness of the school. So if you have a computer lab and you have the computers outfitted to accommodate the software, you can give us a call and we will come. We have to do a site visit and there's a questionnaire that you have to complete, and then we can provide the licenses. And this will be for ArcMap. We're trying to negotiate with the suppliers of the software to also provide site licenses to some select schools. And these are for secondary schools primarily. There's some discussion about piloting GIS in some primary schools, but we want to get the secondary schools out of the way first. So as it relates to having access to it for SBAs, if the teacher is still here and you're hearing me, you can actually contact our office and we can organize to have a site visit. And we'll come and we'll look at your infrastructure and we'll help you to build that out specifically. Sorry, what is the other question? The one you brought to my attention.
Sorry,
I want to know where can they
okay, right. Courses? You can access courses. Okay, all right. So I know that if you do the urban and regional course at UTech, it is offered in that course as a module, and it's also offered at UA if you do geology and geography. So there's a possibility of pursuing that if you want to go through the formal system. If you're studying a degree in geography and geology, then most likely it is going to be an option that you can choose at some point. And regional planning, it is offered as a course there as well. For short courses, I know that Mona Geoinformatics advertises when they have courses being run, and these are 6-week courses that you can have access to. And the LICJ runs courses as well, but that is dependent on the availability of persons for the training. So if we have a number of persons indicating their willingness to do the training, then it can be accommodated there. So those are the ones I'm sure about.
You left out
online classes.
You left out my program.
Sorry?
You left out my program.
Survey and
you can also offer a double major in land surveying and GIS.
Yes, SGIS is offered at UTech as well in the faculty of the built environment. So yes, that is true. I'm sorry. I must apologize profusely. So yeah, so those are some avenues that you guys can consider if you want. And there are also online offerings of GIS courses that you can look at if it suits you. So it depends on your learning style, and of course, a lot of things are going online now, and so there are vastly more options available because of the pandemic and the shift in learning and so on. So if you want to check those out, you can. Miss Lloyd?
And there's master's courses as well at UA and UTech in GIS.
I don't know about the UA for the master's program. I know that there is something in this environment. I didn't know that about UA. I know that St. Augustine UA, there is a master's course, but I'm not sure about Mona.
There's mathematics at
the master's
in
UA Mona.
I don't know if it's Mona or
at St. Augustine.
Okay, yes.
St. Augustine has a master's in geoinformatics. University of Technology has a master's in built environment, and you can specialize in geomatics.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. So the ones I haven't mentioned is because I don't know. All right. Thank you, guys. Simone, are you going to wrap up for us?
Yes, please. A big thank you. Thank you to all our presenters. Thank you so much, Walter, for carrying us through the GIS session. It was very active. We saw a lot of persons posting. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you, Trisha Ray, and Ramoski, and Ramiki. And of course, thank you, Gary. Thank you so much for sharing your journey from conception in terms of what you were thinking of in terms of possible career option and how you possibly diverted and how it is that you found your way in the field of GIS, of which we are all very passionate about. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your history. I'm sure that the students who have been online and all the others who have joined us today have also benefited significantly from hearing about your journey, your qualifications that you would have obtained, the path that you would have taken to do so, and what it is that you've been doing in terms of your sojourn with regards to your various employments and where you are now. So thank you. Thank you all for being with us today for Jamaica's 18th celebration of our National GIS Exposition. Usually we would have been at the Mona in the Assembly Hall. We would be in the Assembly Hall and its surroundings. We would have been all over in tours, expositions, competitions, and the list goes on. Of course, because of COVID-19, we've had to take the event virtually. So we're hoping that you're able to appreciate us offering it in this way. Usually, the Geo Talks, because of the competition that happens with the tours happening and the other competitions happening, usually the whole thrust with regards to persons being involved in the Geo Talks in terms of actually viewing is usually low because there's usually an excitement with regards to the tours and the competitions. So we're very happy that based on today's GIS Day event, we were able to focus on the Geo Talks and really engage with our speakers so that they could share their life experiences with us. So we thank you for joining us today. As Walter would have explained, we were really looking forward to hosting the competitions, but given the feedback from the schools in terms of needing more time to prepare, plus also the limited number of entries, we really thought it wise to postpone and to give the schools more time, tell them what would be the new revised date, and to actively work together in them being able to fully
come together, participate fully, and benefit from all the prizes and surprises that we have to share. So we'll be engaging in terms of finalizing those plans and advise you when that is afoot and when that has been finalized. So we thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being with us through the opening ceremony. Very thank you to our guest speaker, Mr. Glenn Ivy. We thank special thanks to the Chairman of the Land Information Council of Jamaica, Mr. Alexander Williams, to the Deputy Principal of the University of the West Indies, Professor Ian Boxill, to our Minister, Minister Pernell Charles Jr., for joining us from the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change. We're very happy that you are all able to be with us this morning during the opening ceremony, and that all who have been online have been able to be with us through that and also the GeoTalk session. All right. Thank you also to those who were able to join us earlier in September for our second Jamaica GIS User Conference. Also for our technical seminar last week, which was held, and our Thanksgiving service. As always, we thank you for all your support, and we look forward to your continued support as we try to spread the word with regards to GIS and geospatial technologies, how relevant they are, how they can be used, how they are being used, and how it is that you can chart your way forward in terms of a possible career option where this viable field is concerned. So we thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a very wonderful day. And we'll be in further dialogue with the schools as we actively work towards ensuring that we're able to host the competitions before we have another GIS Day next year. So we look forward to going back to you in next year and having the 19th GIS Day Exposition happening again at Jamaica's local home, University of the West Indies, Mona. I thank you. Have a great day, everyone. And have a geo-fantastic week, as Poiser would say. Thank you.
One mission to rule my destiny. Oh, it's my day to do anything I want to. It's my time, and I'll use it any way I want to. It's my life, and I'm responsible for every action. It's all mine, my day, my time, my life. I beg you, easy now, give me some reason, and don't invade my space. I'm in a different place, moving on my way. So if you feel like a champion, then nothing can go wrong. This one is your song. Hey, put away your troubles, put away your worries, help me sing along. Oh, it's my day to do anything I want to. It's my time, and I'll use it any way I want to. It's my life, and I'm responsible for every action. It's all mine, my day, my time, my life. Out there, so, feeling alive, feeling a vibe, and nothing can stop me. I don't care what they think or what they say about me. Look out, world, here we come, up and running. And all I'm saying is, it's my day to do anything I want to. It's my time, and I'll use it any way I want to. It's my life, and I'm responsible for every action. All mine, my day, my time, my life. Simulate, give thanks for life. Give thanks for life. Simulate. So give thanks for life. Give thanks I'm alive. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. Thoughts of giving up is all in your mind. Let it go, let it go. I'm here to remind you that anything's possible. Yeah, 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 yeah. Give thanks for life. Give thanks for life. Oh, chimney. Today my rise like the sunrise, my bright and my